the Tanya mentions that there are tzaddikim, beinanim, and rishoyim, and within the term tzaddikim, beinanim, within the term tzaddikim and rishoyim, there are two parts. There's a tzaddik gamor and a tzaddik she'ina gamor, a rasha gamor and a rasha she'ina gamor, and there's a or another way of terming it is a rasha v'toivlai, rasha v'ralai, tzaddik v'toivlai, tzaddik v'ralai. That you could have a tzaddik that is having suffering, or you could have a tzaddik that's everything goes well for him. You could have a rasha that goes through suffering, or a rasha that everything goes well for him. And the Gemara explained that why is it that a tzaddik would have everything go well for him? Because he's a tzaddik gamor, he's a complete tzaddik. Why would a tzaddik have suffering? Because he's not a complete tzaddik. And that same would apply to a rasha. You could have a rasha that good things are happening to, and the reason is because he's not a complete rasha. He has he has a few good deeds. Then you could have a complete rasha, and there's no good deeds and no reason to give him any reward whatsoever. And then the Tanya brought that Gemara about the 5 differences, and then Tanya brings, the Alter Rebbe brings the Zohar. And the Zohar says that a tzaddik v'raloi, it's not about what's happening to him. It's not about his experience. He's experiencing evil. Tzaddik v'raloi actually means his essence. He is a tzaddik that has bad in him. There is bad in his essence, meaning he has some negative elements inside him. So in other words, the Gemara talks about more the external. The Zohar is talking about internally. He's a tzaddik v'raloi. It's intrinsic. There's something in him that is ra. And that ra, nevertheless, he's called a tzaddik because it's kafuf l'toiv. It is forced and bent to the good in him, and therefore it has no dominance. It doesn't affect him. The Zohar says that that's the meaning of this idea, tzaddik v'raloi. So in other words, when we think of tzaddik v'raloi, we generally look at it how he's living. He's living with he's suffering. He's having some bad go. But the Zohar says no. It's that exactly is who he is. He's a tzaddik v'raloi. He's a tzaddik that internally is ra, and that's the meaning of the term. And so, how much of the evil inside him has he refined? He has subjugated the ra, but has he removed it? And the Gemara, now the Tanya brings from the Gemara in the 9th chapter of Brachos. So if you are, let's see where we're holding it, the actual print of the Tanya, we are now 10 lines from the beginning of the Tanya, and from the top of the page. The Gemara in Brachos, the end of chapter 9, it says, Tzadikim yetzer toiv shoifton, the tzadikim, their yetzer toiv rules them, Rishoyim yetzer hara shoifton, the wicked, their evil inclination rules them, in Beinanim zevazeh shoifton, the Beinani both rule him. And the Gemara continues, and it says, Amar Rabba kugoin ana Beinani. And Rabba said, like me, I am a Beinani. I am an intermediate person. Amar le Abaye, and Abaye told him, Leishavik bar chaye l'chol birya. You are not leaving life to any creation. If you consider yourself a Beinoni, then no one is a tzaddik, because you are the most righteous person in the world today, and no one will be able to reach what they want. If you are a Beinoni, then you're ruining it, so to speak, for everyone else. Meaning that Abaye was claiming that Rabbah is really a tzaddik. But Rabbah, for some reason, calls himself and thinks of himself as a Beinoni. So what we are seeing here is that there must be some deeper meaning that Rabbah, the word Beinoni, that Rabbah thinks he is, and Abaye says absolutely not. And Tanya continues, well, Lahavin calls Eber Hativ. To understand this well, what is the tzaddik gomor? What is the level of tzaddik that's not gomor, that's not complete? What does it mean that his evil is bent over and forced to the good? And what does it mean that the Yetzer Toiv and Yetzer Hara rule over him? And so just to get clarity on all of these levels, that is basically why the Alter Rebbe brings all these statements. There's statements in the Gemara, statements in the Zohar. We're trying to figure out what is the tzaddik, what is the Beinoni, and based on that, we'll figure out what our avodah is meant to be. How are we supposed to serve Hashem? And the next statement in the Tanya is another question of touches on bechira, choice, free choice. V'gam lahavin, and also to understand Masha Amar Iyov, what Iyov said in Baba Basra chapter 1, Rabbeinu Shalayla, master of the universe, Barasa Tzadikim, you've created righteous people, you created Barasa Rishoyim, you created wicked people, v'cholu. And Iyov was basically telling Hashem that how can you punish anyone? You created our problems. You created me as a wicked person, and that's why I'm with you. You created another person as righteous. How could you give him rewards? It's all based on, your creation. And mi ma'akev al yadcha, who is holding back? He says, who stops you from doing what you want? We're all forced into whatever we do. You shouldn't punish anyone. And what did his friends answer him? His friends answered him that I created the Yetzer Hara, but I also created the Torah to spice up and to give you the ability to overcome your Yetzer Hara. That was the answer of his friends. So, in other words, Job had these friends of his that he would speak to, and the answer that they gave he was given was, well, Hashem created tzaddikim and rishayim, but I also created the Torah to make life easier, to make it possible for you to do the right thing. So the question is, what did Iyov mean when he said you created tzaddikim and rishayim? Vaha, but tzaddik v'rasha like Amar. Another Gemara says that Hashem doesn't say when He creates a person that this person is a tzaddik and that person is a rasha, because if He did, then you wouldn't have free choice. So how does this Gemara fit with the fact that another Gemara says Hashem doesn't create tzaddikim and rishayim? You decide if you're a tzaddik and a rasha. It doesn't come from God. So what we're getting at is that there must be some concept of tzaddikim that Hashem does create in rishayim, and there's another element that is up to you to choose from. and you to choose what you want to do. But there is a concept of tzaddik in Russia in God's creation, and that's why they didn't reply to Eov, and they didn't tell him, Eov, you're wrong. Hashem didn't create tzaddikim in Russia. Hashem creates everyone free choice. That's what they should have answered him. If according to that other Gemara, that Hashem doesn't say who's a tzaddik in Russia. Instead, they answered him, you're right. Hashem creates a tzaddik in Russia, but he also creates a Torah that you'll be able to minimize the impact of the Russia, of the fact that Hashem creates a Russia. It'll be minimized because the Torah is a tavlin. It's a spice that will allow you to overcome your Yetzer Hara. But the idea of a tzaddik in a Russia, it seems like that is a given. Could be that Hashem creates a tzaddik in a Russia. So how does that fit with that other Gemara? So what we're stuck with is a number of questions about the specifics of tzaddik, Russia, Beinani, tzaddik Gomor, tzaddik She'ena Gomor, tzaddik Tovloi, tzaddik Beraloi. So, and then we have to figure out what is a Beinani. Now, that's where we're up to. V'gam lahavin mohus madregas habeinani, and also to understand the essence of the Beinani. Shebavadai, for sure, einoi mechza zechuyos and mechza avoinos. For sure, it's not half and half. A Beinani can't mean that you're half sins and half good deeds. She'im kain, why does it have to be that way? Why? Maybe it means half and half. Generally, we always think of the intermediate person as the half and half. That's the common understanding of what a Beinani is. If you ask someone, what is a tzaddik? He has more mitzvahs than sins. What is Russia? He has more sins than mitzvahs. What is a Beinani? He's half and half. He's got 1,000 sins and he's got 1,000 mitzvahs on the scale. That's a Beinani. But the Tanya said, no, it can't be. She'im noimar kain, if we're going to say, she'im kain, if so, eich ta'a rabba bi'atzmai, loimar shehu Beinani. How did Rabba make a mistake and say that he's a Beinani? It's impossible. V'noida, we know that he was so righteous, he didn't have any sins, even the most common sin of bittul Torah. What's the most common sin is people waste time. They don't study Torah when they have free time. That's the most common sin. And we know that Rabbah did not lose a moment. The like pasuk noida, it's known. The like pasuk kumemi girsa.
That goes on the bottom, on the hook, on the bottom, on the bottom. Oh, you got it. Put the other one on. That's it.
Okay, let
put
me
it right
mute
on
it.
the shorts.
So v'noida, it's known. The like pasuk kumemi girsa. He didn't stop his mouth from studying to the extent that even the angel of death was unable to affect him. And how could he have made a mistake with with half sins, God forbid? He knew who he was, and he knew he didn't do half sins and half mitzvahs. So it must be that Beinani does not mean someone who has half mitzvahs and half sins.